Hi, I had the time to analyze my second Rabbit game, so I'm gonna go through the analysis in this video. So the second Rabbit game played a couple of weeks back. I felt like my Dutch defense went a little bit bad in that game, and indeed it seems to be so that I made some mistakes. But fortunately enough, I was able to uh, fix the situation as the game went on. So let's check the moves of the game. So white starts with d4, and I play almost always in a longer time control games against d4, the Dutch defense, which is f5. Sometimes I might play the Queen's Indian defense, but I haven't done that in a while. And even sometimes, I think I used to play Benoni against and this one as well, but that I haven't done in a while now, because it's a little bit cramped and hard to play open. But in this game, that's defense. White goes to play f5, which is a little bit of a strange move. Computer says it's inaccuracy, which I believe, but it's also from my own analysis. I played this opening quite a bit, and I don't think, at least, this is any mainline variation, any theoretical variation to respond like this. Then the knight goes to f6, which is a standard move in classic Dutch, and in here it works particularly well because this square is already a good outpost for the knight, since both of the pawns have moved forward. So standard move plays particularly well here, since the white has chosen a little bit, how would you say, not a typical way to respond. Then white plays e3, protects the pawns. Again, not familiar with these moves, but I think the main issue with white is that the pawn structure is already kind of, pawns are pushed forwards. There's a good outpost. Behind in development, all the minor pieces are still back, so I just continued with the standard move e6. White continues with the pawn moves by playing pawn g3, which is again, I think it has some issues. The pawns are all on white's dark squares. The white squares are getting quite weak. Of course, white still has the white square bishop, but if that would be exchanged at some point, particularly with something else than my white square bishop, I could have a really good ways in his position through the white squares, and the development is lagging behind as well as a result of these pawn moves. So there's holes here. Well, that's not a hole yet, but one major hole in white's defense. So I play the bishop, like a dark squared bishop to e7, a standard move again in Dutch defense. There's no, although white is playing in an unconventional way, there's no like a very concrete weakness that I could try to quickly exploit. So I just play the standard moves and acknowledge that I have this good outpost for the knight here and see what else happens. Bishop to d3. And that, okay, it guards this outpost square here, but I don't feel it's a good square for the bishop. That's its only job now. You could guard it with the knight as well. Otherwise the bishop is hitting a wall here. It would more make sense to put bishop to this very long diagonal here. Try to control that. Now the scope of the bishop is very, very small. And there's of course you might ask, is there any plans to pressurize the f5, but not really. Let's just take actually, because I can more pieces there. Take. I think there would be better place for this bishop than d3 probably. This is again a standard move. Engines suggest something completely different, of quickly moving c5, but nevertheless I don't still fancy it too much, because I cannot really, it's hard to see the benefits of that. It gets very messy, so I feel it's better to stick in basics. It's not bad, it's equal position, and then I can play with something I know. So that should be alright at least. White continues with the pawn moves, placing the pawns into the dark squares. Again, white is lacking a lot behind in development. Well, not a lot, one piece. But considering that it's my move and I have black pieces, I think it's white is behind in development significantly. And again, white keeps. I guess white wants to create a square for the bishop or for the queen, and try to pressurize this pawn break. But it's very easy for me to defend against that pawn break, isn't it? And that's indeed what I want to do. Very typical to Fajanzito, the bishop here in classic Dutch, and if white bishop is not in this diagonal. It's a very long diagonal that is completely open, can be controlled. There's the rook still in the end of it. And now I think it would make most sense for the white to block it with the knight. But white does not do that. Instead, white plays b-file, knight here. Clearly white's idea is now to create pressure on this pawn break. But I feel it's still so easy for me to defend against. Because I can put two pawns defend against it, so there's no break without sacking a piece. Like a successful break. So I keep developing the bishop there. Now have to do something needs to be done with the rook, and now white blocks the diagonal with the knight. And this is of course an annoying pin now from white's perspective. This is the move that is a big mistake on my part. This is where it goes. I feel slightly wrong. As you can see, the eval bar doesn't think that's that too bad, but I don't know why I was thinking that this pawn is somehow weak and I need to defend that. But there's nothing to be afraid of. I could have just continued like the theory says. Castle. If white is gonna attack there. One queen move. Everything defended. Black is completely fine. So I think I was totally seeing ghosts. And now I just open up this square potentially later for the white knight. So I weaken my king side for no reason, and it makes actually castling that side very hard later on. Or not hard, but undesirable, perhaps. So didn't like that move. Just castling would be fine. Would have been fine. Standard moves. I don't know why I divided. I think in some blitz games I've lost this pawn. And now I was worrying about it. But that's the thing that you many times do bad moves because of seeing ghosts. The rook moves, which is makes sense since it removes the pin, but computer actually says that white it wasn't important for white to yet to do it. Instead, white should support this pawn break here. And the pawn break is still what I said before, that there's no break, but now there is kind of break because I cannot yet take here. Enough many times to do it impossible. I would first need to play pawn here, then this break wouldn't be there available. But at the same time, then this square would become a really good outpost for the knight, so I don't want to do that. So I have to actually, perhaps it's smart for me to prepare for this break and do some exchanges here. To be prepared to do some exchanges there. And that gives me a better pawn structure pawn still. These two chains here, and of course I have the e6 pawn a little bit weak, but can be probably defended. Yeah, so the rook move, not ideal, but it's about even still, it's not terrible either. The knight developing the last piece, nothing special with that. Nothing special. With that as well, I was bringing it to ready to cover the g6 square here. Yeah. Although covering with the knight it proves not to be needed. This is the reason. I was all the time getting ready for this move. Now I can cover with the knight. The g6 square, because I thought that my only options are cover with the knight or king, and king I thought was not ideal. So covering with the knight would have been better, but although of course this is terrible placement for the knight, it's between the rooks and the back rank, that's not really where you want your knight to be. But then checking with the engine move that I didn't consider, but obviously is actually now as computer giving it, engine giving it, I can see it's also probably the best move here. It's just to play g5. What can white do? Knight cannot come forwards. Or can, but they just exchange. This is completely fine for me. If the knight goes backwards, this is also fine for me. I can even close it here. And then I potentially have this break later. This could work also. And if white takes, again the same choices. If knight comes here, rook moves, knight takes, knight takes. Completely fine. Even have this semi-open file here. I can try to use later. And I even control the first rank in that file currently. And same things, if the knight goes back, I can just close this diagonal. I have this really nice control over this diagonal. Can close this diagonal and, I don't know, attack this pawn later. It's It just seems to make so much more sense. But I didn't even consider that when playing. And that would have been active move. Also gaining some space. Which I totally lack after this move. It's terrible. Although it should be noted that I still have this g5 available to me later, as engine shows will show. So it's about I actually still have an advantage because I have that move available to me. Okay, the queen develops, white queen develops this way, which I think is a little bit, I don't know, perhaps it would have made more sense to put it here, not sure. I think the point is that white wants when this file will be semi-open, the white wants to pressurize this pawn, but now it's actually one thing this knight does a good job of is defending that square. Very hard to say. But it's about the equal still.